Broadcasting from the basement of La Penta, this is WICR.
Hello, Iona College. It is now 12 o'clock on this beautiful Tuesday morning, and we're back here with Lights Out Sports. And Armand, how are you doing today, man?
I'm alright. I mean, the weather's better from yesterday, which is good. Yesterday was way too cold out.
Way too cold. The weather's definitely changing. But Armand, today is October 20th, and you know what? It's MLB playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing for the first time in years we're seeing is we're talking New York Mets baseball in October. This has just been sick, guys. I mean, we're in the NLCS. They're up 2-0 right now. Nobody saw this coming this year with the New York Mets. Just thought the Washington Nationals would dominate the NL East. The Mets just coming into the playoffs, take down the LA Dodgers in 5 games, now up 2 games versus the Cubs. Game 3 tonight at Wrigley Field. You have Jacob deGrom going against Kyle Kendricks. And, I mean, this is probably the most anticipated game of the whole series. The Mets ace on the mound. But this series, Armand, we look at the New York Mets. This team is on a streak, and I have them right now. They're my World Series favorites. It doesn't have to be with how they're hitting right now. It has nothing to do with hitting. Pitching has been phenomenal.
I mean, that's probably the biggest part of the game when it comes to postseason is pitching. It's not hitting because it's cold out. Now, most people don't like to hit in the cold. So, you know what I mean? So, definitely pitching is... Oh, you just hit the mic. Pitching is definitely the most vital part of postseason play. Mm-hmm. And right now, I mean, they're up 2-0. I mean, both games they were ahead of the game. They never were down. And, you know, Game 3 against Hendricks and you have DeGrom on the mound. It's looking good. They can go up 3-0.
Almost
They
definitely.
really probably will.
And then Game 4, you have Jason Hamill, who would be pitching for the Cubs. And the way he struggled in the second half of the season...
Oh, absolutely. Dropped off.
The Mets have to take advantage of that. Unless they want to go home or play one more game at Wrigley and have to take on Leicester and then face Arrieta yet again. I mean, even though they took care of those two.
I think this is the biggest game right here. If you go up 3-0, you win the series. Unless you're the New York Yankees from like 0-3.
Oh, most definitely. But one thing we had to talk about, you know, I've been talking with my father about this the last couple days. We look at the NL. We're seeing some things in baseball we haven't really been seeing the last couple years. You know, the other day we look at Mets Chicago, Game 2. There's 22 strikeouts in that game. Yeah. Game 1 is 16 strikeouts between each team. And we look at it, they're averaging like 20 strikeouts this whole postseason. And that's why I always say when it comes time for the playoffs, the NL always has the higher chance to win the World Series because the NL is all a pitcher's league, and they always dominate. And that's what's always needed come October and November because your hitters go cold.
And you know what I noticed, too, with these NL games, too, is that they're not getting players on the base pass. They're living and dying by the long ball. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of home runs hit by both teams. So, with that being said, I mean, that's the only problem. I think coming when you play Toronto or Kansas City, they got great legs around the bases. They can steal very good, and then they hit extra base hits. But both teams have horrible pitching staffs, especially Kansas City. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, the Mets, honestly, they could win the World Series. They really could.
Kind of remind you of the 90s when you had the Atlanta Braves with Tom Glavine, Greg Maddux, and
John Smoltz, yeah.
I mean, this one's even ridiculous with Syndergaard. You have Harvey, DeGrom, and now Matt you could throw out of the bullpen, which I really think is going to be key for this
I got a question. If they go to the World Series, you think they're going to do a 3-man rotation?
I think so. I kind of like the idea of throwing Mats into the bullpen for them. I mean, yes, you know what, Mats, we look at the Subway Series in September, very calm in that outing, and kind of brought that into the playoffs. You know what, he got hit up versus L.A., but he's kind of a pitcher who stays confident. He doesn't let it bother him, doesn't let it get to him at any time. But I do like the idea of a 3-man rotation because you know what, you have Bartolo Colon out there in the bullpen, you have Jonathan Neese who looked pretty decent the other night, and then you still have Steven Matz, who are all starters who could pitch out of the bullpen. And then if you have Addison Reed, you have Familia, you have Tyler Clippard coming out, and those guys have all been lights out so far. And I think a 3-man rotation would be key if they make it.
So you think Harvey can pitch twice in the World Series?
Oh, most definitely. They're going to have to do it that way. I mean,
now or never.
You look at it, yes, he's on that innings cap, but it's a once-in-a-lifetime chance. You're in the World Series. If you go to the World Series,
you gotta win it.
This is the first time since 2000 that you're in it. You haven't won it since '86, and you have to go all out for it. This is what was built a couple years ago when Terry Collins was originally brought into this team, when they were brought into that rebuilding stage where it goes to draft picks, drafting pitchers, building up the team, trading Carlos Beltran, acquiring other pitchers for him, and now we're looking at the product that was set a couple years back.
Absolutely.
I mean, Armand, in this series, one person I really think we have to highlight, Daniel Murphy, who going from the NLDS, hitting 3 homers so far in this series, 2 more homers. This guy's been phenomenal. I mean, typically a 280 to 300 hitter every season, but I don't know where this is coming from.
You know what's a great storyline around Daniel Murphy is that how Daniel Murphy going into the trade deadline this year was the Mets were trying to get rid of him. He was horrible. He's had one of the worst statistical years of his career. He just was down in every facet of the game. And for him to do this turnaround and just be lights out in this postseason is just a great story for the New York Mets and for baseball.
Oh, most definitely, because you know what, we haven't. You know what, Yoenis Cespedes has gotten a couple RBIs, but we're not seeing, you know, that dominant form that we saw in late August.
No, Murphy has
September.
turned into Yoenis Cespedes of the regular season into the playoffs.
Almost definitely. And another shout out to Curtis Granderson. The Grandy man has been on fire. You know, me and you talked about the other day with the Yankees how when it came playoff time, the guy couldn't hit anything.
No,
we're like, where are your glasses?
You know what I think it is? I think playing for the New York Mets, I think it's definitely less stressful than playing for the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees is the big stage of sports. You know what I mean? The New York Mets don't really have any history. I mean, they have 2 World Series, but I think it's just there's not as much pressure playing at Yankee Stadium with, you know, that aura and, you know, all the nostalgia that's built around that stadium and those New York Yankee fans. It's just a whole different atmosphere. I think it's more laid back with playing for the Mets, and now we see the results.
Oh, the Mets do have a history, though, Armand. You know, trading away the greatest pitcher in baseball, Nolan Ryan. I'm trying to make a joke.
Okay, I was about to say every baseball has, you know, it's fine. You understand what I'm saying, though, right? How I think, like, if you play for the New York Yankees or the Red Sox,
yeah, you're more in that spotlight. You're where the media is.
Yes.
That's where you're in Chicago. You're in LA. That's where it is. I mean, New York, yes, you're in that media spotlight, but the Mets isn't big because the Yankees have just been predominant.
just blown them away when it comes
all these
to
years from the 1900s going up.
I got a question for you now, Robert. This is a really good question. If the Mets win the World Series, if they don't, if they, you know, hopefully they close out, win 2 more games against the Cubs, do you think that the New York Mets have the capability of becoming a franchise? A dynasty, I mean.
You know,
that's what I meant to say.
You know what? That's a great question. I've kind of been thinking about it the last couple days. But here's my only worrisome, Armand. We look at it, you know, Daniel Murphy's going to be a free agent, obviously, after the season. Cespedes is, too. And Cespedes is big contracts. And we already know with the Mets, they don't like to hand out big money to their big at-bats. You got to bring Cespedes back and Murphy back. If you bring these
Can't
two
bring
back,
both. I don't think they can bring both back.
You really don't think that?
No. Knowing the New York Mets and their offseason moves, I don't think they're going to bring both back. Hopefully they bring one back. Matt Harvey's contract's up in, 2 years?
No, Matt Harvey has like maybe 3 more years left. 3 or 4.
Really?
Yeah, because
I thought it was closer. I thought it was 2.
I
All right,
mean,
but whatever. That I think, you know, how good this team stays over the next couple of years is if they're able to hold on to Syndergaard, DeGrom, Harvey, Matz, all these guys.
Well, that's the key thing. They have these pitchers for the next couple of years, so they're going to be set
good.
for maybe the next 4 or 5 years with these pitchers.
But
then you have to think after the effect. Oh, what's going to happen when these guys want the ridiculous contracts, when they want to be the Clayton Kershaw making $30 million a year?
Matt Harvey's going to drain the Mets out.
Oh, no.
He's going to ask for like a Clayton Kershaw contract.
Oh, you know where Harvey's ending up, though, Armand.
Yeah,
He's
New York
ending up in
Yankees.
pinstripes because I think that's where his heart is at. I mean, even though he's been pitching great with the Mets, I just see that's where his heart is at. But, I mean, yeah, this Mets team, I'm scared after like 5 years from now. I see a whole rebuilding process, but even next season, I'm a little bit worried. I don't know
the Yankees
if you can't
retain
that. If you can't retain that bat, if you can't retain those 2 bats, what are you gonna do to your franchise? That's the thing. You could really hurt your franchise.
Well, I would definitely. I mean, Cespedes is pretty young. Was he 24, 25? He's got to be around there.
Cespedes is like 27, 28 years old.
He's been around that long. Oh, because he came
in late.
He came in late from Cuba.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I He's gonna want like a Cano contract. He's gonna want like a 10-year contract, which I would only give him maybe 7 or 6.
The last time I heard, he wanted within the $120 million range. That's what he wants for his contract.
It's not. I mean, that's not that bad. Look
I
at
think
Jacoby
I would give him
Ellsbury.
that money.
I would give him that money, if not more.
If
If
he's the only
anything,
Mets player to hit home runs at Citi Field.
if anything, Cespedes is settling for a lesser contract. He can get at least 200 mil at somebody.
Yeah.
Look, Rob. Look at Ellsbury and McCann. Both of them. I think Ellsbury's contract is like
McCann
170
lived up to it
million.
finally this year. McCann lived up to his contract.
did.
Ellsbury, when the Yankees first signed him, we knew he was injury prone, and yet we still gave him that ridiculous amount of money. When the guy's on the field, he does a great job. But you know what? Since injuries, he's dropped.
But what I'm saying is, like, Ellsbury had one good year where he had like 40 and 100. Remember that year? And he had like 35.
For Boston.
Yeah, for Boston. And then the Yankees went after him, gave him that contract. Brian McCann's a good catcher, but I don't think he's worth that contract. I think Cespedes could be the NL MVP. He's definitely worth anything that they give him.
No, I do have him as kind of the MVP, but I would still give it to Bryce Harper. But
No,
I think
no,
you have
not
to.
for the Nationals' expectations for them.
Hey,
Just,
41 homers, batting over 300.
yeah, but he didn't lead them into the
playoffs.
playoffs. See, my interpretation of the MVP, they gotta lead their team into the playoffs, at least.
But the argument's going to be is that he came the second half of the year, so you really can't consider him the NL MVP.
Okay, that's a good point.
That's
Good
the only
point.
problem.
Well, can a pitcher can win the MVP? Can he?
Yeah, pitcher can. It might be Jake Arrieta.
He's worthy of it. Why not? He
Yeah.
could win the Cy Young and the MVP.
Yeah, because I'm sick and tired of watching Kershaw win it.
Yeah, for his horrible postseason ERA and everything.
No, give it to him. He won Game 4. Give it to him.
Yeah, he won one
and
game.
he pitched good in Game 1. Even
He
though
won
they
one
lost.
game. Ooh.
So we just talked to you guys about the New York Mets. Their playoff run. Hopefully 6 games from now, they'll be World Series champions, and me and Armand will be in the city enjoying that parade. Because as a kid, I never got to go to any parades for any New York teams. With the Giants, I was always in school and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But I think
and
for the
even the
Mets-
Yankees in 09, I was like, what, 15?
15,
I was
yeah.
gonna play hooky. I was gonna be Ferris Bueller for a day.
But for the Mets, we've been waiting since '86. So definitely wish them the best of luck. Good luck into Game 3. When we come back with Lights Out Sports, we'll be covering our NFL Sunday recap as well as Monday Night Football. We'll be right back after these commercial breaks.
You're listening to WICO.